Pay attention to the ambulance pulling up to the modest ranch house on Willow Creek Lane. It's 3:42 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon in late September. The neighborhood is quiet. Tree-lined streets, well-kept lawns, carefully maintained flower beds, the kind of place where nothing unusual happens. Where people know their neighbors by first name, where children ride bikes until the streetlights come on. The call came in at 3:38 p.m. An elderly man had fallen. His neighbor heard him calling for help through the window. Standard welfare check, standard response. The kind of call that happens dozens of times every day across suburban America. An aging population living alone. Falls, hip fractures, routine medical emergencies that require nothing more than transport and treatment. Paramedics Lisa and Dante step out of the ambulance. They've been partners for 4 years. They know each other's rhythms, anticipate each other's moves. They grab their medical kits and approach the front door of 1247 Willow Creek Lane. The house looks ordinary from the outside. White siding, blue shutters, a small garden bed filled with dying chrysanthemums that needed to be cut back weeks ago. A welcome mat that says, "Bless this home." An American flag hanging from a pole mounted beside the garage. Within 15 minutes, what they discover beneath this house will expose a crime that had been hidden for over a decade. A crime that had been literally underfoot while neighbors walked their dogs past the property, while the mailman delivered letters, while children played in adjacent yards. The front door is unlocked. Dante pushes it open slowly and calls out, "Fire department, we're here to help. Can you hear us?" A weak voice responds from somewhere inside, strained, elderly, frightened. "Help. Please. I can't get up. I've been here for hours." They follow the voice through a narrow hallway lined with family photographs. Faded images of weddings, graduations, children who've grown into adults. The hallway opens into a living room cluttered with the accumulated possessions of a long life. Stacks of newspapers, books piled on every surface, a television playing the local news with the volume turned down low. An elderly man, maybe late 70s, lies on the floor near the fireplace. He's conscious, alert, but clearly in pain. His face is pale and drawn. Sweat beads on his forehead despite the cool temperature in the house. His right leg is twisted at an unnatural angle. His name is Walter Brennan. He's 78 years old, a retired accountant who worked for a small firm in town for 40 years. He's lived alone since his wife Margaret died 8 years ago. That's what everyone in the neighborhood believes. That's what Walter told them. Margaret died peacefully in her sleep. Natural causes, a quiet passing after a long illness. She was cremated. Her ashes were spread in the backyard beneath the oak tree they planted together on their 25th anniversary. "I fell," Walter says, wincing as Lisa kneels beside him. "My hip. I think it's broken. I was reaching for a book on the shelf and I lost my balance. I've been lying here since this morning. I couldn't reach my phone." Lisa begins her assessment. She checks his pulse. Strong but elevated. She checks his pupils. Responsive. She gently examines his right hip. Walter cries out in pain when she applies even minimal pressure. "Possible hip fracture," Lisa says to Dante. "We need to stabilize him before we move him." Dante radios for a stretcher. They'll need to transport him to County General. Standard procedure. Immobilize the injury. Get him to the hospital. X-rays. Possible surgery. Recovery in a rehabilitation facility. He's 78. He lives alone. There will be discussions about whether he can safely return home. But as Lisa begins to check Walter's legs, she notices something strange. The floor beneath them feels soft. Not just old wood. Not the typical give of a house settling over decades. Something else. Something wrong. She presses her hand against the hardwood. It gives slightly under pressure. Not much. Just enough to be noticeable. Just enough to be concerning. "Dante," she says quietly, keeping her voice calm so as not to alarm Walter. "Feel this." Dante crouches down and tests the floor with his palm. His expression changes immediately. His eyes meet Lisa's. They've both been doing this job long enough to know when something isn't right. "This doesn't feel right," Dante says carefully. Walter watches them nervously. His eyes dart between the two paramedics. "The floor's been sagging for months," he admits. "Maybe longer. A year, maybe 2. I kept meaning to call someone to fix it, a contractor, but I never got around to it. You know how it is. You put things off when you live alone. There's no one to remind you. Lisa stands carefully, distributing her weight. She takes a step toward the fireplace. The floorboard beneath her foot cracks audibly, not a small crack, a deep structural crack that echoes in the quiet room. She freezes. Dante, we need to be careful. This floor might... The sentence doesn't finish. The floor gives way. Lisa drops through suddenly, violently. The wood splinters and collapses beneath her. She falls 3 feet, maybe 4, before her fall is broken by something soft. Not earth, not insulation, not the packed dirt of a crawl space. Something else. Something that shouldn't be there. She lands hard, pain shooting through her left ankle. Her flashlight has fallen from her belt, beam cutting sideways through absolute darkness. Dust fills her lungs. She coughs, disoriented, trying to understand where she is. Lisa! Dante's voice comes from above, urgent and frightened. Are you okay? Can you hear me? I'm down, she calls back, breathless. I don't know where. Under the house, I think. Crawl space, maybe. She reaches for her flashlight. Her hand touches something as she gropes in the darkness. Fabric. Cold fabric. Not the fabric of insulation or construction materials. This is different. Softer. Smoother. Like cloth that once covered something. She grabs the flashlight and turns it toward what she's touched. The beam illuminates a face. A human face. Skeletal. Partially mummified by time and the dry conditions of the crawl space. Wrapped in a decomposing blanket that was once blue but has faded to gray. The eye sockets are empty. The jaw hangs open. Wisps of hair still cling to the skull. Lisa screams. It's an involuntary sound. Primal. The kind of scream that comes from seeing something the mind can't immediately process. She scrambles backward, pain forgotten, trying to put distance between herself and the thing in front of her. Dante radios immediately. His voice is tight, controlled, but Lisa can hear the strain. Dispatch, we have an emergency at 1247 Willow Creek Lane. The floor collapsed. My partner is in a crawl space under the house. She's injured but conscious. We need fire rescue with structural support equipment. And there's a body down there. Human remains. We need police. We need the coroner. We need everyone. Within minutes, the quiet street fills with emergency vehicles, fire trucks, police cruisers, the county coroner's van. Neighbors emerge from their houses, standing on porches and lawns, watching the commotion with expressions of shock and confusion. This is Willow Creek Lane. Nothing happens here. Nothing bad. Lisa is pulled from the crawl space at 4:07 p.m. Her ankle is sprained but stable. She's shaken, covered in dust, but coherent. Paramedics from a second ambulance check her over. They wrap her ankle. They offer her water. She drinks it without tasting it. Fire Captain Daniel Ross descends into the crawl space with a team. They bring industrial flashlights. They bring cameras. They move carefully, documenting everything before touching anything. What they find is worse than anyone anticipated. Not one body, 3 bodies, all in advanced stages of decomposition, all wrapped in blankets or tarps, all hidden in a narrow crawl space beneath Walter Brennan's living room, arranged in a row, deliberately placed, deliberately concealed. The crawl space is only about 3 feet high, barely enough room to maneuver. The bodies are positioned against the far wall, away from the access panel that would normally be used for plumbing or electrical work. Someone had to crawl in there. Someone had to place them there. Someone had to know they were there. Walter Brennan is still on the floor where he fell. He hasn't moved. He can't move. But now 2 police officers stand over him. They don't speak to him. They just watch him, waiting for detectives to arrive. Detective Sarah Marks arrives at 4:23 p.m. She's 42 years old, a 16-year veteran of the force. She's seen a lot. Domestic violence, drug overdoses, bar fights. But she's never seen anything like this. She crouches beside Walter. She studies his face. He won't meet her eyes. Mr. Brennan, we need to talk about what's under your house. Walter's face is pale, ashen. He doesn't respond. He just stares at the ceiling. Who are they? Detective Marks asks gently. She keeps her voice calm, non-threatening. She needs him to talk. Silence. Mr. Brennan, We're going to find out eventually. DNA testing, dental records, missing person reports. We'll match them. We'll identify them. You can tell us now, or we'll figure it out ourselves. But it'll be easier for everyone if you just tell us." Walter closes his eyes. When he opens them, tears are streaming down his face. Not tears of grief, tears of relief maybe, or resignation. The tears of a man who's been carrying a weight for so long that its removal, even through discovery and arrest, feels like a release. "My family," he whispers. "They're my family." The investigation moves quickly once the bodies are discovered. This is no longer a welfare check. This is a triple homicide investigation, the largest case the county has seen in decades. The 3 bodies are removed from the crawlspace and transported to the county medical examiner's office. They're photographed, measured, examined. The decomposition is significant but not complete. The dry conditions of the crawlspace have partially preserved them. Mummification has occurred in some areas. Adipocere, the waxy substance that forms on bodies in certain conditions, is present on others. Initial examination suggests all 3 victims died years apart. Different stages of decomposition, different methods of concealment, different blankets, different positions. This wasn't a single event. This was a pattern, a series, a progression. Dental records are requested from local dentists. Missing person databases are searched. Family members are contacted. The process takes days. By September 28th, all 3 victims are identified. Victim 1, Margaret Brennan, age 68, at time of death. Walter's wife of 42 years, reported as having died of natural causes in September 2015. Death certificate signed by Dr. Harold Sims, Margaret's longtime physician. She was cremated according to official records. A memorial service was held at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. 43 people attended. Donations were made to the American Cancer Society in her name. Except she wasn't cremated. The cremation never happened. The ashes Walter spread in the backyard were from his fireplace. Margaret Brennan was under the house. She'd been there for 8 years. Victim 2. Claire Hoffman, age 52 at time of death. Margaret's younger sister, Walter's sister-in-law, reported missing in April 2017 after allegedly moving to Scottsdale, Arizona to care for an ill friend. She told her family she'd be out of touch for a while. She'd call when she got settled. The weeks turned into months. The months turned into years. Eventually, the family assumed she'd simply wanted a fresh start. She was always independent, always unpredictable. No one ever heard from her again. She never made it to Arizona. She was under the house. She'd been there for 6.5 years. Victim 3. Michael Brennan, age 45 at time of death. Walter's son from his first marriage. Reported missing in July 2019 after a fight with his father over money. He'd come to the house demanding his inheritance early. He had gambling debts. He needed cash fast. Walter refused. Michael left angry. That was the last time anyone saw him. Police investigated briefly but found no evidence of foul play. Michael had a history of disappearing for weeks at a time. He'd show up eventually, asking for money again. But this time he didn't show up. His ex-wife filed a missing person report. The case went nowhere. Michael was under the house. He'd been there for 4 years. Walter Brennan is arrested on September 29th. He's transported from the hospital to county jail. His hip is treated. Surgery is performed. He's placed in a secure medical unit under 24-hour guard. He's not going anywhere. He can't walk. He's 78 years old. He's not a flight risk. But protocol demands security. Detective Marks conducts the formal interrogation on October 1st. Walter has been advised of his rights. He's been assigned a public defender. The attorney advises him not to speak. Walter ignores the advice. He wants to talk. Margaret was sick, he begins. His voice is flat, emotionless. Cancer, stage 4, pancreatic. The doctors said she had maybe 6 months, maybe less. She was in so much pain. The medications weren't working anymore. She couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. She was suffering. Detective Marks takes notes. She doesn't interrupt. She begged me to help her. She said she didn't want to die like that. Slowly, painfully. She wanted to go on her own terms. She wanted peace. So you killed her? I helped her, Walter insists. She took the pills. I made sure it was peaceful. I held her hand. I told her I loved her. She fell asleep. She never woke up. And Dr. Sims signed a death certificate? Walter shakes his head. I forged it. I used his signature stamp. I worked in his office for years before I retired. I did his bookkeeping. I had access to everything. I knew how the system worked. I knew what forms were needed. I filled them out myself. No one questioned it. And the cremation? I told everyone she was cremated. I had a memorial service. I spread ashes in the backyard. They were fireplace ashes. Wood ash. No one questioned it. Why would they? I was her husband. I was grieving. People believed me. And Claire Hoffman? Walter's expression darkens. The emotionless mask cracks slightly. She found out. She came to visit 6 months after Margaret died. April 2017. She wanted to see where Margaret's ashes were spread. She wanted to sit under the oak tree and remember her sister. I couldn't refuse without seeming suspicious. What happened? She started asking questions. Too many questions. She wanted to see Margaret's death certificate. She wanted to know which funeral home handled the cremation. She said something didn't feel right. Then she found Margaret's jewelry in my bedroom. Jewelry I'd told everyone had been buried with her. Margaret's wedding ring, her mother's pearls, the diamond earrings I gave her on our 40th anniversary. So, you killed her too. She was going to tell everyone. She was going to ruin everything. She was going to expose what I'd done. I didn't have a choice. You strangled her. Walter nods, slowly. In the kitchen. We were drinking tea. She said she was going to call the police. She stood up to leave. I grabbed her from behind. I didn't plan it. I couldn't let her leave. I wrapped her in a tarp afterward. I put her under the house with Margaret. I sent emails from her account saying she was moving to Arizona. I made it look like she left voluntarily. And Michael? Walter's voice becomes bitter, angry. He wanted money. He was always wanting money. Gambling debts, credit cards. He'd come around every few months asking for handouts. I usually gave him something just to make him go away. But in July 2019, he showed up demanding $50,000. $50,000. I didn't have that kind of money. I refused. And then? He threatened me. He said he'd been asking around about Claire. He said it was strange that she'd disappeared like that. He said he was going to look into it. He suspected something. I could see it in his eyes. So you killed your own son. He was going to destroy me, Walter says flatly. He was going to expose everything. I hit him with the fireplace poker. He fell. I strangled him to be sure. Then I put him under the house with the others. The forensic examination confirms Walter's confession, but also reveals details he didn't mention. Details that paint a darker picture. Margaret Brennan. Cause of death, acute barbiturate poisoning. Manner of death, homicide. Despite Walter's claims of mercy and assistance, the toxicology shows a dosage far exceeding what would be necessary for euthanasia. The medical examiner suggests she may not have been fully conscious or willing when the drugs were administered. There's evidence of aspiration, suggesting she may have been force-fed the pills. Claire Hoffman. Cause of death, asphyxiation due to manual strangulation. Manner of death, homicide. Defensive wounds on her hands and arms. Skin cells under her fingernails that match Walter's DNA. She fought back. She scratched him. She tried to survive. The strangulation was prolonged. It took minutes. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was sustained violence. Michael Brennan. Cause of death, blunt force trauma to the skull and manual strangulation. Manner of death, homicide. Multiple skull fractures. The attack was violent and sustained. He was struck at least 6 times with the fireplace poker before being strangled. The medical examiner notes the overkill suggests rage, not simply the elimination of a threat. Dr. Harold Sims, whose signature was forged on Margaret's death certificate, is questioned extensively but cleared of any wrongdoing. He had retired in 2016 and never suspected Walter had stolen his signature stamp years earlier. He's devastated. He feels complicit even though he did nothing wrong. He closes his practice permanently. Walter Brennan's trial begins in March of the following year. The case has attracted national attention. the quiet accountant who murdered his family and hid them under his house. Cable news covers it extensively. True crime podcasts dissect every detail. The prosecution presents overwhelming evidence: the bodies, the confession, the forged documents, the timeline of disappearances, the forensic evidence, Walter's own words. Walter's defense attorney argues diminished capacity. Walter was grieving his wife's terminal illness. He was isolated. He was acting out of desperation, not malice. The first death was mercy. The others were attempts to protect himself from exposure, driven by fear and trauma, not calculated evil. The prosecution disagrees vehemently. Walter Brennan systematically murdered 3 people over 4 years. He concealed their bodies beneath his house. He lied to police, to family, to friends. He filed false reports. He forged official documents. He lived above their remains for years, maintaining a facade of normalcy. He attended church. He had coffee with neighbors. He went grocery shopping. All while 3 bodies decomposed beneath his feet. The jury deliberates for 6 hours. Walter Brennan is found guilty of 3 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of abuse of corpses, forgery, and obstruction of justice. Judge Harold Morrison sentences him to 3 consecutive life terms without possibility of parole. At 78 years old, Walter Brennan will die in prison. There is no redemption arc. There is no rehabilitation. There is only justice. Lisa returned to work 6 weeks after the incident. Her ankle healed. The bruising faded. The physical injuries were temporary. The psychological impact took longer, much longer. She still responds to calls. She still helps people. But she's different now, more cautious. She checks floors before stepping. She listens for sounds that shouldn't be there. She pays attention to things others might miss. Dante requested a transfer to a different district 3 months after the incident. He couldn't drive past Willow Creek Lane without remembering, without seeing Lisa fall through the floor, without thinking about what was underneath. He needed distance. He needed a fresh start. They still talk sometimes. They're still friends, but they're not partners anymore. Some experiences change things permanently. The house at 1247 Willow Creek Lane was condemned by the county within a week of the discovery. Engineers examined the structure and declared it unsafe. The crawl space was excavated completely and examined for additional remains. Cadaver dogs were brought in. Ground-penetrating radar was used. The backyard was searched. The garden was dug up. No additional remains were found. Just the 3. Just Margaret, Claire, and Michael. The property was eventually demolished in May. The house was torn down over 3 days. Neighbors watched from their porches. Some brought lawn chairs. Others stood silently, arms crossed, witnessing the erasure of a place where terrible things happened. The lot remains empty. No one wants to build there. No one wants to live where bodies were hidden. The grass has grown over the foundation. Weeds have reclaimed the garden. The oak tree still stands, the one where Walter claimed he spread Margaret's ashes. But now everyone knows those weren't her ashes. She was never set free. Neighbors who lived on Willow Creek Lane for decades said they never suspected anything. Walter was quiet, polite. He kept to himself after Margaret died. But that seemed normal. He seemed lonely, but not dangerous. He waved to people from his porch. He accepted casseroles from the church ladies. He thanked the teenager next door for shoveling his driveway in winter. No one thought to question why his son stopped visiting. No one thought to question why Margaret's sister stopped calling. No one thought to question the cremation that never happened. No one thought to look beneath the floor. Margaret Brennan, Claire Hoffman, and Michael Brennan are buried in adjacent plots at Riverside Cemetery. A single marker bears all 3 names. Margaret's real ashes don't exist. Her body was intact when found. She was buried properly, with her sister beside her and her stepson nearby. The funeral was attended by over 100 people: family, friends, neighbors from Willow Creek Lane, people who'd been told 8 years ago that Margaret was already gone, people who'd believed the lie. Walter Brennan is incarcerated at Rockview State Correctional Institution, a maximum security facility in central Pennsylvania. He receives no visitors. His remaining family members, nieces and nephews from Margaret's side, cousins from his first marriage, want nothing to do with him. He's been written out of family trees. His name is not spoken at gatherings. In interviews with forensic psychologists, Walter is described as a family annihilator who killed not out of sudden rage, but through calculated self-preservation. Each murder was designed to protect the previous one. Each victim was eliminated because they posed a threat to his constructed reality. The psychologists note Walter's complete lack of remorse. He expresses regret at being caught, but not at the killings themselves. He maintains that he helped Margaret, even when confronted with evidence that she may have been unwilling. He maintains that Claire and Michael forced his hand through their suspicions and demands. He takes no responsibility. He accepts no blame. He is, in the clinical language of psychology, a narcissistic sociopath with no capacity for empathy. But they were people. They had names, lives, families who mourned them and are still mourning them. Margaret Brennan was a retired librarian who loved gardening. She volunteered at the local elementary school reading to first graders every Tuesday morning. She made the best apple pie in the church bake sale. She sent birthday cards that always arrived exactly on time. Claire Hoffman was a social worker who dedicated her life to helping foster children find permanent homes. She'd placed over 200 children during her career. She attended their graduations. She danced at their weddings. She loved fiercely and without reservation. Michael Brennan was a father of 2 daughters who adored him despite his flaws. He struggled with addiction. He made mistakes. But he was trying. He'd been clean for 6 months when he went to his father's house that July day. He wanted money to pay off debts so he could start over. He never got that chance. They deserved better than to be hidden under a floor. They deserved better than to be forgotten. They deserved better than the death Walter gave them. The floor gave out that Thursday afternoon in September. And when it did, it revealed the truth that Walter Brennan had been standing on for years. Some foundations are built on lies. Some houses hold secrets in their bones. Eventually, under the weight of time and circumstance, they all collapse. The neighbors on Willow Creek Lane have tried to move forward, but they still look at empty houses differently now. They still wonder what might be hidden in crawl spaces and basements and sealed rooms. They learned that evil doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it lives next door. Sometimes it waves from the porch. Sometimes it's the quiet man who never caused any trouble. Until the floor gives out. Until the truth is revealed. Until the bodies beneath are finally brought into the light.